YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, just a fun replay for you. This is going to be me playing as Dark Elves versus the Beastmen. Yes, the Beastmen. So I was thinking about how to take these guys on. They have a lot of units that can bust through lines, get around your lines, and so I was like, you know what, I don't really want to rely on skirmishers, so I wanted to do something that was very high risk, high reward. So I brought 2 Hargoneth Executioners, 2 Blackguard, 2 Dread Spears with the chevrons of whatever money that remained, 2 War Hydras, and Malekith on his Black Dragon. And my goal here is to provide a small but extremely hard-hitting infantry line. And if my opponent comes with cheaper infantry, hoping for a knockout against Bleak Swords or Dread Spears, then he would get absolutely crushed in melee. And if he brings a higher tier line, so be it. I think I can go head-to-head. So let's see what my opponent has brought. He's got a Cygor out here. He's got a Giant, which is a weird pick with all the missiles that can come from the Dark Elves, but still, he picked the Giant. And he's got a crap load of Bestigor. So this will be a good, interesting pick here, because he's got 6 Bestigor, and then he's got Morgur the Shadowgave. So he immediately starts off, he's pitched a couple of rocks at my War Hydra, which is definitely the wrong target. He should be aiming for a Blackguard or a Hargoneth Executioner. Malekith's going to get a breath attack. Anything I can do to pull down the Giant's health before combat, the better, because this guy can cause a lot of damage, and I don't want that damage. So I'm going to use both War Hydras to help burn some health off of him as well. So we'll do some pretty intense damage to the Giant. You can see he's lost half health before the fight begins, and I'm just going to dive on him with Malekith because nothing around from the Beastmen is really that big of a concern. I can save my infantry the charge of this Giant, and I'm going to bring a Hydra in, and we're just going to come over here and get in head-to-head combat. Hargoneth Executioners going head-to-head with Bestigor. Pound for pound, my infantry, the Hargoneths, should be better, and Blackguard even are going to be a pretty tough match here. You can see I was trying to disrupt the charge of the Bestigor. Didn't quite work. But in any case, we get engaged, and the Bestigor get taken down pretty hard by the Hargoneth Executioners. Though there are so many Bestigor here, we're going to be in trouble. My Spearmen out here just take a charge from his Bestigor. They'll hold a surprisingly long time because of their 45 melee defense. So you can see here in the center, the Giant's already coming down. A lot of Bestigor have been killed. Some are already routing. And Morgur's going to get into fight, and I'm going to be able to do some work here on Morgur. I've used the Soul Stealer to pull a little bit of life off of Morgur. He's resistant to a lot of things, so we're going to be trying to take care of him. Check out that War Hydra ripping these guys apart. He had some Razorgore herds hidden in the woods, and he brought them in at an odd angle. He really should have taken his time to get a good solid rear charge, because I didn't really have anything to stop him from doing so. So a big mistake from my opponent, at least in my opinion. The Hydra, I need to get it out and let it do a breath attack. He's not pursuing me, and so this is going to cost him big time. I'm going to turn around and get a nice Hydra attack. You can see this one's pulling out of combat too. My Blackguard are likely to be damaged by this. In fact, they are quite heavily damaged by it, but it's also kind of worth it for me to get some good damage in here on this Beastman blob. So I probably killed my own Blackguard, but, you know, I'm a Dark Elf. Who really cares at this point? Dread Spears, Blackguard, everybody who's over there died. My Hargoneth Executioners did some chasing, but now I've kind of mismicroed them here, and they're not going to like life so much down there. But you can see my Hydra is doing a great job at breaking up the enemy. This one's already got 40 kills. The Giant got taken down by Malekith, and now it's going to be time for our next target, which is going to be the Cygor, and he's not going to like fighting Malekith and his dragon. Look at this. Chaos Spawn just getting tossed all around the battlefield by the War Hydras. These War Hydras are freaking awesome. And again, my heavy infantry over here really standing up in the center quite nicely. The Chaos Spawn not particularly effective against the combination of Executioners and Blackguard, but this is a nice charge here. And had he started cycle charging, I think his Razorgore herd here could do some pretty serious damage, but he can't cycle charge because Razorgore herd can actually rampage now, which means that my Blackguard are going to turn around and start putting these little piggies to the slaughter and getting Malekith some beast bacon ready for his breakfast in the morning. And you can see the dragon here easily matching forces. I go ahead and use Soul Stealer, or no, I already used Soul Stealer twice. I was able to pump up my magic by using this Power of Darkness. And you can see that because of Soul Stealer, Malekith has barely been touched in this battle. He just absolutely beasted it out. He doesn't have a lot of kills, but he did a ton of damage to key enemy units. And again, where I have to, my infantry stands up pretty well. They're going to do quite good against Bestigor Herd. Both Blackguard and Harganeth Executioners. You can see them holding their ground quite nicely in this case. And then my opponent admits defeat. The War Hydras had ripped up this flank. His Cygor had routed. He didn't have much left. So in this case, I thought this was a fun army against Beastmen. I'm kind of curious what you all think. I could see this army standing up decently to a couple of different Beastmen builds. So I'm kind of curious what you all think about it. Like, again, if you come with a bigger mix of heroes, like let's say 2 Gore Bulls and, you know, any Lord, if they blob up, I can use Soul Stealer to steal life out of all of them at once if they're too close together, keeping Malekith alive while causing damage to them. And they would have to try and cut through stuff like Blackguard and Harganeth Executioners. If you bring Ungor Raiders, it could certainly be useful. But how useful, I don't know, because they're not armor-piercing. It certainly wouldn't hurt, right? You'd have some. But again, if you bring a light infantry line with focus on other stuff, those light infantry are going to get absolutely crapped on by Blackguard and Harganeth Executioners. Those guys will kill the lighter infantry all day long. All day long. You can see here, even against like an overwhelming number of armored foes, they were outnumbered considerably and still picked up a lot of kills in a couple of situations. This one Blackguard here was really the only one that didn't pull its weight, and you can tell by the number of chevrons that get notched up here. So the number of kills isn't overly impressive, but 2 chevrons in one fight. The Dread Spears I chevroned ahead of the fight, right? So there's nothing to see there. The Hydras picked up a chevron each. So again, gives you an idea how much damage these units were causing. I think my opponent could have used his Razor Gore Herd a little better, been a little more patient, get a direct rear charge. These guys are armor piercing, and they would technically do well against the Harganeth Executioners, and they would have been a good target. I would have targeted the Blackguard second, because the Executioners are not anti-large. Again, though, interesting composition. I think the only thing I could... I mean, he's definitely at risk here. Like, had I brought a skirmishy army, he would have had very little to chase it with. And so, armor-piercing missiles, no shields. I think an army of Bestigor was pretty questionable because he doesn't have anything to chase down my Dark Shards, which would have absolutely taken a dump on these guys too. So I don't know. What do you all think? And the Dark Elves, to me, just feel like a better overall faction than the Beastmen. The Beastmen are one of those factions that's kind of more of a specialty, fun faction. They're not going to be one of your power factions, but they're going to be fun to use, and they have a few unique units and feel to them. But anyway, curious to see what you all think. What do you think of the army? You have any special thoughts on the Dark Elves versus Beastmen? Again, I don't know. I kind of lean towards Dark Elves having pretty much all advantages there, unless you all disagree. Appreciate MSI for being a great sponsor, and thank you for being here. I love making these videos for you every day. It really is a privilege. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. I will see you tomorrow on Total War Warhammer 2.